Captain Williams, and you enrolled Thanksgiving Day, 1941, 42.
On Thanksgiving Day.
You did. Did you pick that day on purpose?
Nope. Nope. That was a time when they were drafting many people freely again. They didn't take Thanksgiving Day off. I reported Fort Mac right here in Atlanta on that day.
I would ask you how old you were, but you've got the DOB here, so just tell me.
23.
23 years of age. And you had service in Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, California.
All around.
Yes, how did that come to be?
I just get moved every time there's an opening. They move me around.
And what was your activity there?
Almost nothing. So, I was drafted, of course, as a recruit, and 9 months later in an OCS, Officers Candidate School, in North Carolina, and got a commission in less than a year after I got in the Army. And I was in an aircraft, and was about the time I got a commission, we had our superiority, and there were 4 of us that graduated together that were excess officers, and we got processed a lot for overseas, but we never went. So we got moved somewhere else.
I see.
I did a lot of training of troops for overseas.
Probably, you think it was because you were a year or two older than the incoming?
No.
No?
No. I think if we just happened to be successful in gaining air superiority, so anti-aircraft officers were not needed anymore.
Tell me why they were not needed at that
Because
time.
they had air superiority, and the planes weren't coming over and bombing troops, so we weren't needed to shoot them down.
I didn't realize they had gained that so soon. That's interesting.
Yep. When I was drafted at Fort Mac, there was the sergeant came in and said, "Anybody in here know how to type?" And I said, "I'm the best typist in the land." He said, "We need you to stay here and help process recruits." So I stayed there with Franklin Garrett.
We know Franklin Garrett in Atlanta.
And I got to know him quite well. And I stayed there for 2.5 months processing troops. And I went down to the orderly room to see about getting a pass to go out in the evening. But they said a recruit can't get a pass. And I had lived in Atlanta, so I was anxious to get out. So I went down to the gate to see how the troops got out, and they walked by and flashed the pass and went on out, and I said, that's easy. So I went by every evening and flashed my library card and went right on out and never looked at it. And came back in, did the same thing, and I kept doing that for 2.5 months without ever being detected what a phony guy I was.
And you got to go home.
I wasn't home, I just visiting.
How did you get to be such an expert typist?
When I was in high school, I was in the 4-H club, and a man in my hometown of Thompson gave each of us 4-H club members a Poland kind of pig to raise as a 4-H club project, and we could, if it was a female pig, we bred it and gave him one back, and if a male pig, we used it to breed the others, and I had a male pig, and I sold that pig for $9, and I took typing for 50 cents a month and shorthand for 50 cents a month. So because I could read my own writing, and I learned to type, and that was one of the best $9 I ever spent. $4.50 for typing.
It was good two ways. You earned it and you invested it in education, didn't you?
I made good use of it.
4-H program, I haven't heard about that very much.
4-H club is
Club.
by the agricultural department. Head, heart, and hand, and
Help?
health, I guess.
How long were you in that?
Several years in high school. Well, 2 or 3 years in high school. It's still an active 4-H agricultural project. I read about it in the consumer, in the agricultural magazine that they put out from every 2 weeks.
I'm glad it's still important.
Very much so.
And that was Thompson County for you.
Thompson, Georgia. McDuffie
McDuffie County, right.
Yeah, I was born out in the country.
Well, did you know you was going to be traveling that much?
No. When I was a senior in high school in 1935, our school truck driver took us to Augusta, 35 miles away, to see the Christmas decorations and the Christmas lights. And that was, except for just going across the line to country church, that's the first time I'd ever been out of McDuffie County. And when I was 17 years old. So I decided if the world is as pretty the other way as it is that way, I want to see it.
You did. So, what else went on with the Army?
I moved around a lot, and my main function was training troops. And during the war, when we had the Battle of the Bulge, I was training infantry troops for overseas, and I took that job very seriously. And we worked at it long hours. I remember on Christmas Eve we were out at the rifle range till 11 o'clock at night, and I took that as a very serious occupation, and I could see those kids getting on the plane and going over to the Battle of the Bulge, and I hoped I had done my job seriously enough.
Conscientious. It was important.
Very important.
Did they learn fast?
Yeah. They had to. Yeah, they had to. We taught them fast. And I was stationed 16 miles from home on VE Day, 1945, and was transferred to Fort Lauderdale, California, 3,000 miles away. And I went out there and spent 10 months and did almost nothing. I remember keeping track of what I did for a period of time, and all I did was sign the ration report once a day.
Because things were winding down, is that it?
Yeah. And while I was out there, I looked for something to do rather than being idle, and I enrolled in a correspondence course from the University of Georgia on business law, and my supply sergeant was a lawyer in civilian life, so I talked to him a lot about that because he didn't have much to do either, and I passed that course with flying colors. It's the only correspondence course I ever took in my life.
You must have found it interesting.
I benefited all my life from what I learned in that correspondence course about business law.
Did you begin planning about after the war civilian life at that point?
Well, I had gone to work with what is now Equifax on Monday before Pearl Harbor right here in Atlanta, and worked a year before I got drafted, and I came back, and I went back with the company on April the 15th, 1946, and stayed with them for 35 years, counting military service.
That's quite a career.
And I moved around a lot with the company.
Really?
Yeah. I have worked in many locations all over the state of Georgia, and Tennessee, and Kentucky, and Colorado. And I came back to Atlanta in 1957 on my 16th anniversary, and I told them I'd do anything they wanted me to do as long as it wasn't over half-day drive from 5 Points, because my kids were in an age where they had changed schools enough that we needed to settle down, so I've stayed right here since 1947, 1957.
How many children?
3.
3, yeah.
Yeah. All very grown.
Well, they need looking after when they're coming along like that. Tell us some of your outstanding recall incidents and experiences, starting any place.
Well, in moving around, I joined Kiwanis 54 years ago yesterday, and I've been very active in Kiwanis, and I've visited Kiwanis clubs from Halifax to Vancouver, from San Diego to Miami, and I visited once in the Caribbean and once in South America and 16 times in Europe. And in 1975, we had the Kiwanis International Convention in Atlanta, and I was general chair for the whole thing, and it turned out to be the biggest convention we've ever had before since Kiwanis was organized in 1915. And I still spend a lot of time on Kiwanis.
Kiwanis is philanthropic
Service club.
service.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which groups do you mainly work with?
Beg your pardon?
Which groups do you mainly work with?
Well, our main target is the youth, working with youth, and we do a lot of work with youth all over the world. Kiwanis used to be in the United States and Canada, but we got organized a club in Vienna, Austria, about 25 years ago, and we've spread now all over the world. And for a long time, Kiwanis was restricted to male membership, and finally we got approved for females to be part of the organization, and they've become a very important, widespread part of Kiwanis.
So it's international.
Very much international.
Is it difficult to get both men and women in it?
No. All the service clubs these days are struggling with membership, I think because of TV. We started out in 1958 with 110 members, and we're down to about 70-something now. And we keep losing membership. And one thing, the group that started it out have grown in age, and we only left with 2 charter members in all that time, and I'm one of those 2 charter members, and I was 86 years old last month, and the other member, whose uncle was president of Kiwanis International in 1926, he's almost as old as I am, so we got a lot of elderly members in our club, and that's true of a lot of, I think, of the service clubs.
Does anybody ask you how you've managed to keep going with such an extensive career?
No, but you really do what you want to do.
Okay.
And I spend a lot of time with Berry College.
Berry College.
I graduated there in 1941, and for a long time did nothing for Barry, but when I came back to Atlanta, I got active and was president of the Barry Alumni Association for back about 1975, and have been active in raising money for Barry College. When our class had its 50th anniversary, we got 93.7% of all the alumni to contribute, and that's the highest percentage of any class in the history of that school.
That's impressive.
We kept doing it. I originated the phonathons where we went over to my office, as many as 50 of us, calling people all over the world and letting them contribute to Barry College.
Yeah, it is international. Where was your office at that time?
Over at Century Center.
Century Center.
In the big office, and we do it Monday and Tuesday evenings, and Thursday and Friday evenings. We didn't do it on Wednesday evenings because we figured most folks would be out to prayer meeting on Wednesday evening. But
We used to.
we do it 2 weeks before Thanksgiving and 2 weeks in the spring, and raise a lot of money.
Thanksgiving's a good time to do it, but everybody's appreciating what they have. It matches up very well.
It was a convenient time.
Yes. You've had a lot of opportunities and benefited. Tell me about Rome Berry College. I know it was a work study.
I went there in 1936 with $5 of borrowed money and worked my way completely through there. And my sister came 2 years later, and the last count I had been 16 in my family that attended Barry, and we appreciated it a lot because it was the only place in the world I could have gone to college.
Well, what about the GI Bill?
Well, that was before the World War II, so it wasn't in the GI Bill then, but they've used it since. And I spent a lot of time. I talk to them nearly every day up there, and I'm going up there this Saturday with my sister just to give her an opportunity to see the campus once more.
I've heard it's beautiful.
The world's largest campus.
I didn't know that. How big is it?
It used to be over 100,000 acres, but it's slowed down a little bit since then because of activities, and it's about 97,000 acres now. There's more deer on the campus up there than there are people. So when you drive around, especially at night, you drive.
More deer, slowly.
You drive slowly and carefully.
Really. It's interesting. Wonder how many students are benefiting up there per year now.
They have about 2,000
2,000.
from all over the world.
Sounds like Kiwanis International. What did you study while you were at Rome?
A little bit of everything, but I majored in education and minored in English. And when I graduated, Gene Talmadge had all the schools from the University of Georgia down through the kindergarten off the accredited list. So I never
Off? Did you say off?
off the accredited list. So I didn't ever go into school teaching because of the late Gene Talmadge, governor of Georgia.
I don't know what to ask about that. How did it happen, or why, or
It was
how did it get fixed?
his politics.
Well, I've never heard that before. So how did they fix it?
He was a politician that and the county unit system did a lot for people from his hometown, territory, but not necessarily for the state, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of other people.
Gee, that affected a lot of people,
It did.
such as teachers' people. You think that was too bad?
Well, back in the Depression years, teachers got paid in odd ways by giving them things versus paying them money.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Trading. They have trading organizations now, I think, on eBay. Whatever they call them, I don't know what they call them.
I've been retired since 1957, and I stay busier than I've ever been. All the time.
I think you do, with the Kiwanis and with
Yeah.
the college.
Yeah. And
Oh yeah, tell us about your records here.
one of the things I do is a weekly bulletin for my Kiwanis Club, which I do we meet on Monday, and I do the bulletin on Monday evening, and complete it fully, and
Besides,
mail it out Tuesday.
Buckhead light shines, we build, and then more information on the back.
Yeah, and I used to mail it out in envelopes, but I learned to do it like this, fold it up and run it through my computer and address it, and
Save an envelope.
Save a lot of envelopes.
Save some of the folding and sticking and so forth. It's efficient.
Yeah, and I do it in different colors every week, as many colors as I can find.
Yeah, then you know which week.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been doing this turn for 27 years, but I did it as far back as 1956 and 57.
Your English major helped you.
Yeah. My computer helped me too, so that it tells me how to spell words that I have to struggle with.
Makes it easier, you think?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
What else is in that autobiography? Is that an autobiography?
Yeah. When there's a guy in my Kiwanis Club that I brought in the club in 1987. And he and I did a lot of traveling around to places like Nashville for the Kiwanis International Convention, and Savannah for the district convention, and the other places where I was making a speech. And I told him a lot about my childhood and growing up, and the dire circumstances under which we lived during the Depression years and afterwards. He kept saying I ought to write an autograph for my children and grandchildren. I didn't ever agree with him because I didn't think anybody would be interested. But on my 81st birthday, one of my sisters, I had 6 sisters, one of them brought me for my birthday a little booklet with narrow lines, and said, ever since Mama died at the age of 87, I thought of many things I wish I'd asked her, but I didn't think about it then. She said, you write pretty good. I think you ought to write an autograph about yourself for your children and grandchildren. And I thought about it for a while, and I said, I'll do that, but I'm going to do it on my computer. So I started doing it. I worked on it as late as 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got all this done, and I got through passing it around the children and
They
relatives,
were thrilled.
and they said, what about so-and-so, some incident that I had mentioned. I said, I didn't think about that. So at the end of the time I started an addendum to it and wrote another multiple pages to talk about those things that I remembered. I went back.
Help on that addendum. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Makes it a group project back there.
and had a lot of fun doing it.
You want to tell us a little bit about your growing up?
Yeah. My father died in 1932 at the age of 41, and my mother was 39. My brother was 15 and I was 13, and my 6 sisters were from 12 years down to 4 months. And he'd been ill a year or two and out of work, and left my mother worth about $500. So at the funeral at the country church on a Sunday afternoon, a lot of people said to my mama, "I know you're going to miss these kids when they go off to orphanage home." And she said, "The first one that goes to an orphanage home, I go with them." So we did some things to find a place to live, and we made a living on the farm, and we were extremely poor people, but so far neither one of us has been in jail. And I'm the only, my brother died when he was 60, and 4 of my 6 sisters have died, and I got only 2 left, but we had really a wonderful life because my mother taught us how to work, and I grew up knowing how to work.
And you did work. It's quite an experience.
Well, it was a rewarding, rich life. I started off with what used to be Retail Credit Company, which is now Equifax, on December the 1st, 1941, with $110 salary, and had to buy a car. And I was, when I got out of the Army, I took about $150 reduction in salary to go back with them, and stayed with them until I retired as a regional vice president. And I had a very successful career with them, and used to know more people in the company than anybody else because of my position in the home office of the company right here in Atlanta, and more people than knew me because of the job that I had. And I traveled all over the United States and Canada visiting branch offices and doing a lot of constructive work with the company.
I'm glad you wrote the autobiography.
I enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed reading it.
You have a lot of happy memories in there with that beginning hardship. It was hardship.
Those were opportunities.
Oh,
Miss Barry used to teach us those aren't problems, those are opportunities.
she was special too, wasn't she?
She's a great benefit to this world. And I was in the last class that was there before she died in February 1942. In the first year that I was there, I worked around her home. The first semester, full-time, 6 days a week. In the second semester, 2 days a week was paid for room and board. So I had many opportunities at Barry, working on various jobs, learning to do things.
And Barry is such a nice surrounding. I've seen pictures. It's got the most I can say, but I know it's a beautiful country. It's a good place to be.
Provides a lot of opportunities.
Mm. So you came back to Atlanta for all the traveling.
Well, when I moved back here on my 16th anniversary with the company, I figured that I was born and reared 135 miles from Atlanta and went to college 70 miles the other way from Atlanta, and Atlanta would be a good place to settle down in. So this is my sixth time to live in Atlanta, and one time I lived here only 8 days. In 1942, when everybody was being drafted, I was single then, and kept moving around, and moved up here from Statesboro on a Wednesday morning, and the next Wednesday afternoon was transferred back to Savannah.
Hmm.
And,
Where did you meet Mrs. Williams?
beg pardon?
Where did you meet Mrs. Williams?
Over in Columbia, South Carolina, when I was at Fort Jackson. I had worked with her niece, who was 4 years older than she was, at the company, and her niece lived in Augusta, and I called her up one Sunday when I was going back to Fort Jackson, and she said, I told her where I was stationed. She said, I got an aunt over in Columbia, and I could just visualize a Sunday dinner. I said, yeah. She said, yeah, 21-year-old blonde. So I got interested then and got a number and called up, and we got married a while later.
Sunday dinners, when I was growing up, sometimes, I know not during the week, but Sunday dinners sometimes meant fried chicken, which we loved. Did you have fried chicken?
We used to go out to dinner a lot of when we went to a place that had good fried chicken. That's what we ate. Growing up in the country, we raised a lot of chickens for food, and I've loved fried chicken all my life. I still think it's one of the best entrees you can find.
You've had some interesting experiences and done some hard work, long work in your career.
Well, I've tried to take advantage of opportunities and not look upon them as handicaps.
That's what Mrs. Berry said too, wasn't it?
That's one of the lessons I learned up there.
And you said you began the Army with another long-time Atlantan, Franklin Garrett. And he's a historian.
Yeah, we got to know each other real well. In 1948, when I came to Atlanta for management training school, one of our opportunities was making a speech. Every morning, somebody in that class would make a speech, and I heard a lot of good speeches about places they came from Montana to Toronto, and I decided, what could I make a speech about that would be events of that group, and I decided that Equifax was an Atlanta company and Coca-Cola was a good company, so I called Franklin Garrett up, and he said, do you remember our time before Mac together? He said, sure. I said, I want to make a speech about Coca-Cola Company. Give me some references. He gave me some references from magazines that I went to the library and got, and I made I thought, a very interesting speech about the history of Coca-Cola Company, and that speech was used by a number of other people from Atlanta who went through that training school and took advantage of what I had found out about Coca-Cola Company. I still got a copy of it, and I enjoy reading it myself. Franklin then was with the Coca-Cola Company.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
He was a historian with the Coca-Cola Company before he came to the Atlanta Historic Society. We've had Franklin at our Kiwanis Club quite a number of times. One time he came, it was the day he was having to move from his house, which was being taken over by Martyr, because he lived right by the railroad track, because he loved trains. And he was moving that day away from where he lived for many years. We had him in our Kiwanis Club several different times. It's always very interesting. One time he came, his talk was about the 1930s. He just talked about those years in Atlanta's history. And I thought that was a very interesting approach and information about Atlanta.
30s. Been a lot of changes.
It sure has been a lot of changes. I came to Atlanta the first time on July the 4th, 1936, and it was a small town compared to what it is now.
That is so true. What are some of the good changes that you really want to commend, or maybe?
Beg your pardon?
What are some of the good changes that you've seen?
In Atlanta?
Yeah, along with computers benefits. What else?
Atlanta keeps growing, and I keep wondering when we go out of town that borders on Chattanooga and Macon.
Oh my goodness.
Because we keep on growing, and one of the things that I've worked on for many months is annexation. I live just outside the city limits, and in what is now the Sandy Springs area, and I think that Atlanta would progress if we did what some other cities in this country have done, make Atlanta limits the same as the Fulton County limits. Because now it's really a small town because of so many of the people that work and function in Atlanta live outside the city limits. And I would love to see Atlanta expand city-wise a lot more than it has expanded over the years.
What would be the process to get Atlanta to have the same dimensions as Fulton
It
County?
takes legislative action to approve that. It's like, for example, the largest city geographically in Georgia is Columbus. But Columbus limits are the same as Muscogee County.
So that's why it's the largest, you think?
The largest city geographically in the state.
Columbus, I didn't know that. Huh. I wonder how difficult it would be, if it would be a good thing to get Atlanta to have Fulton County's dimensions.
It's a difficult task because the people that occupy positions in Atlanta don't want it expanded. They want to keep the job. That's the same with the state of Georgia with 159 counties. The last time there was a change in counties in Georgia was 1932 when Milton and Campbell were joined to Fulton, and there hadn't been a change in counties in the state since. But there are a lot of counties in the state that's not big enough to have a school system. They have combined with another county. And that, to me, is not progress. We need to have a lot less counties in the state, and a lot of, but politicians in the state, counties, that don't want to join with another county because they lose their jobs.
That's a little short-sighted, though, do you think?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That gives me something to think about, too.
Only one state had more counties than Georgia.
Which one?
Texas. They have 250 counties.
But it's so big.
But California is a big state, but I think they have something like 57 counties.
It would be an economy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
At least from what I'm listening to. Fewer bigger counties. Interesting. You think it can happen?
No, I think that politically it's very unlikely to ever happen in Georgia.
That would be too bad.
That's my political opinion about it.
And you've kind of kept a viewport, kept a watch on what's going on, I know. We have a little bit of time for any other particular points or topics that you want to share.
I love baseball. I follow, all my life I followed baseball very closely. The year before the Braves moved to Atlanta, I saw 16 of the 20 major league clubs play all over the United States. And folks down at the company said that Earl doesn't plan his travel schedule for the Major League Baseball schedule comes out. So I've been to baseball games from New York to Los Angeles, and they've enjoyed them much, and they've been to many baseball games in Atlanta when they first came here, and I watch every game that they have and enjoy it fully, regardless of how late it comes on.
And you don't get sleepy.
If there's going to be a late baseball game coming from the West Coast, I might take a nap in the afternoon so I stay awake that night.
Well, it's good to enjoy things like that.
And you know, baseball is mentioned in the Bible more than any other sport.
No, I didn't know
In the
that.
first verse, it talks about it. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And later it tells that Adam stole first and Eve stole second.
Yes, sir.
In the next book, it tells that Rachel went to the well with the pitcher.
You're also a Bible student.
I just love to watch baseball. And I've followed them very closely all the years that I can remember. When we lived in Lexington, Kentucky, Cincinnati was 70 miles away, and the announcer for the Cincinnati Ball Club was a former pitcher, and I used to listen to every game that he broadcast, follow them very closely. And the same thing in Denver, before Denver got a major league club, we had a broadcast of the Kansas City games that I used to listen to a lot, so I followed them very closely.
It's fun when you keep up with a game like that.
Night before last, Atlanta, and I played Houston, and in the 12th inning the score was 0-0, and the substitute player in left field, who never hit a home run in the majors, hit a home run, and in 12 innings, Atlanta won 1-0. and the game lasted 3 hours and a half and ended just before midnight. And I watched every play.
How about my guess that you played baseball as a lad?
We used to play baseball out in the pasture with homemade balls and homemade bats, and we had the bases were cow piles, and we never slid into bases.
I hope not.
Yeah, but we had a lot of fun playing baseball with homemade bats and homemade balls.
How do you make a baseball?
Out of raveling cloth and wrapping it around maybe a small ball in the middle, so we had it made where it could function as a baseball. Back in the Depression years, you had to improvise a lot of things, and we learned to improvise.
I'm not sure the younger generation really knows about that Depression time.
The Depression is a deplorable thing, but it makes an indelible impression.
Yes, sir. I wondered if there was a way to have avoided that Depression time, or even if it would have been a good thing to avoid. We're all used up. If there was a way to avoid it, could we or should we have? Or how could it have been avoided, the Depression?
I don't think I know the answer to that.
I know I don't.
Yeah. I remember back in the Depression when Franklin Roosevelt was president, how many things he did to help overcome that. When I graduated from high school in 1936, I had an application in for admission to Berry College. I was told that they had 500 on the waiting list. They'd love to have me, but they'd have to wait a while. So in the summer of 1936, after I finished high school, I joined the Civilian Conservation Corps, which Roosevelt had inaugurated to give employment to men who couldn't find a job elsewhere. And I was sent off to northeastern Pennsylvania, and because I had learned to type in high school, I was a company clerk and was assistant leader, and I made, the regular guys made $27 a month, and I made $30 a month. So my typing courses paid off in less than 2 months by the extra pay I got there. And I stayed in that CCC camp up in northeastern Pennsylvania for 2.5 months and got a letter from Barry that, okay, we got an opening, come on. So I got discharged that day and took that train ride back home 3 days and 3 nights. And I went to Barry the next Monday on Columbus Day, 1936, well after the semester had started. The winter's a full-time work student, and so it didn't matter academically that I went a little bit late, but I went to work 6 days a week for tuition credit and room and board, and so I'm quite familiar with living under dire circumstances.
But you have such a sunny outlook. I won't say but, I will say and you have such a sunny outlook.
Well, my mama used to teach us good things. And 2 days before she died at the age of 87, I thanked her again for all the good things she taught me all of her life, and I said, the end is near, and you know it, and we know it. But as far as I'm concerned, you'll be much alive in my life the rest of my days. And I still have never visited the cemetery where she's buried, because she's still very much alive in my life.
You're right. Thank you so much for sharing. You told us some beautiful things.
Well, it's a pleasure to have on. I've been a member of Atlanta Historic Society for 4 years, and I can remember, but and I read all the material that I get from it, and I think it's a good thing for Atlanta.
That is just a fact, isn't it?
Yep. When Franklin Garrett was our speaker one time, many years ago, I said, Franklin, just because you want to join the Atlanta Historic Society, so that's how I got started, and I've kept it up ever since.
Yeah, he did too, didn't he?
Very much so.
Yes.
To a dying day.
That's what they say about history. If you don't learn it, you might have to repeat it. I don't know who said that, of course. Maybe a lot of people. Well, I'm glad we're here today.
At my age, I'm glad to be anywhere.
Oh, my uncle used to say that. He used to say, considering the alternatives. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you have an autobiography. And I know your family is glad too to have that.
Well, they claim I've enjoyed reading it, and they liked all those graphics I put in there.
You had 3 children. How about grandchildren?
1, 2, 3. I have 3 grandchildren, I guess. I never thought about that in a while.
Well, I'm going to turn off the machine and say thank you again. And I didn't mean to get into the depression so much, but it's there, isn't it?
Yeah. One other thing that you don't need to have on the recording, but
Oh, I know this is something I want to have on.
no,
All right.
no. I went up to Barry about, I can't remember how many years ago, on Halloween, and shared with me 17,265 shares of Equifax stock, which was worth $515,791.57. And I said, I can't keep track of things in odd numbers, so I fished out $8.13 cash to make it come out to $515,800, and gave it to Barry with an annuity. And every quarter, Barry deposits to my checking account $10,316, and that's one of the best investments I've ever made in my life. And I told him, and I carried it in a trick-or-treat bag. And when I told them they could give that any publicity they wanted to, as long as it was not that the message was I didn't do it for me, I did it for Barry, and it resulted in a lot of extra income. A guy in California who read some publicity about it called him up and said, "Hey, that's a pretty good thing Earl did. I got some stock I don't need," and he gave him $1 million. And the next year he called again and said, "I still got some more stock I don't need," and gave him another $1 million. So they got a good bit of money as a result of that. And when when I originated the phonathon, I tried to get people to realize the assumption of consent.
That's a new phrase. Assumption of consent.
We call them up, we don't ask them, would you do that? We call them and say, we know you're going to contribute to Berry Alumni Fund, and we want to know how much and when and how. I sat down on the phone one night and I called 4 people that I never talked to before, and all of them had given $100. I said, I know you want to increase that to $200. And they said, yeah. And one guy gave them 25, and I said, I know you want to increase that to 100. He said, yeah. And that's the assumption of consent.
How does Berry allocate those funds?
I never even think about how they use the money. I know they got good people up there.
Take more students, or they build more dorms, or something like that.
They got good people up there who make good decisions about using it wisely and well.
Yes.
And when I call up people, they say, what did Berry need the money for? I said, when I went there, people like you helped pay my tuition for 5 full years, and I never had to spend a cent of cash because I didn't have any. How they spend it as well as they did way back there in the 30s.
I hope all the students there now still get a chance to work too.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. But they pay them cash now instead of tuition credit. We never got paid cash. We got paid tuition credit, and the payment was 23, 24, 25 cents an hour, depending on how we were rated by our supervisor. When we could work during the summer and earn enough tuition for the school year. And one summer I was working up there, and I worked on the farm then, and we had a big farm. We had 20 tractors and about 2 dozen mules and horses, and so we could farm in good style, but it had been raining, and we needed to turn that cover crop over, and so we could plant hay to feed the cows and horses on, and it had been too wet to plow. And one weekend it fed up, and on Monday morning at 6 o'clock I was out in the field on a tractor plowing, and they brought all 3 meals to me, and I stood on the ground behind the tractor with just the motor running, and I was to see that tractor eat my meal, and plowed from 6 a.m. till midnight, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. 18 hours a day.
While the weather held.
And only worked 14 hours on Thursday and Friday. So I earned about a quarter of a tuition credit in 1 week.
How old were you?
About 20, 21.
Putting in 18 hours a day. The one question I didn't ask on your farm growing up, what did you all grow?
Cotton and corn and vegetables. My mama used to take in eggs and milk at the butter, not milk, but butter, Johnson Grocery. And I remember one time at the end of the month, our grocery bill was $9 for 9 people. Because we raised most of our food. I can remember setting out Irish potato plants. You cut the aisle for the potato, and we didn't throw the rest of that potato away. We cooked an egg and set out those plants, and then they started in a bed of plants, and as they sprouted from the eye of the potato, we'd move it to the garden, and we had I remember having potato hills, sweet potatoes. We'd make a hill in the garden, put up a pile of potatoes and put corn stalks over them, and pine straw on that, and then dirt on top of that, and then dig at the bottom of the hill at the winter time, dig a hole in there and get out those Irish potatoes and enjoy them.
And they didn't freeze?
They were insulated with that corn stalks and hay, and
How deep did you have to go?
put them on the surface to build them up as weak form fashion.
Ah. Did you buy the farm?
When my daddy died, we didn't own a thing, and my mother came from a family of 14, and one of her brothers lived about 4 miles from us. He lived in a house that was over 100 years old, and he had a slave house, one-room slave house, and we decided that my uncle and my brother and I would add 2 rooms onto that one-room slave house out of sawmill lumber with boards that we derived out of the hickory trees that we cut down, and we built 2 rooms onto that house, and 9 of us lived in that 3-room house for many years. And in that slave house was a big fireplace with a wagon wheel that was built into across it above the fireplace through the chimney, and the things that hung down from there that the slaves cooked on. We used to cook on that, I don't know, meals on it in that fireplace, and Irish and sweet potatoes we put in the ashes down there, and they were good.
I wish we'd gotten all of that on tape.
Well, when I was in high school, I had never seen a high school football